So it's time for another brew day. Today I'm brewing a red IPA. This is the first recipe that I've tried to design through Beersmith. I had a base IPA recipe that I was tinkering with, and then I've basically just sort of modified it to get the red hue on the grain profile. We've got a target original gravity of 1058. We've got a target final gravity of 1013, which should come out with a 6% beer. I've added a little more water because I'm still dialing in the numbers for my Beersmith profile for this system, so it's likely that it's going to be a little less than that in the final product, but as long as the beer tastes good, I'm fine with it being slightly less. My hop bitterness should be 49.1 IBUs, and that should give me a bitterness ratio of 0.848, which does line up with sort of a West Coast IPA style, which is somewhere where they started. And my colour is going to be 34.8 UBC, because again I'm going for the red hue of a red IPA. My ingredients: I've got 4 kilograms of Maris Otter pale malt for my base malt. I've got 1.5 kilos of Munich Malt, 500 grams of Melanoiden Malt, and 100 grams of Roasted Barley for colour. For my hops, I've got 100 grams of Cascade, 100 grams of Chinook, and 100 grams of Vic Secret, which was a New Zealand substitute for Galaxy, I believe, when I put it through the system. That's been broken down into hop addition, Whirlpool, and Dryhop. I'm doing 20 grams of each at 15 minutes left on the boil. For hop addition, I'm doing 30 grams of each in the Whirlpool at 80 degrees, and 50 grams of each after fermentation is finished in the Dryhop. For our mash, we've got 20 litres at 68 degrees for 60 minutes, and the sparge is 50 litres at 75 degrees with a 75 degree mash out before the sparge. My yeast is a Mangrove Jack's M44 West Coast yeast, West Coast Ale yeast, which should give us a nice, hopefully, a nice clean West Coast IPA style, which should fit in nicely with this beer. So, we've mashed in. Let's get some footage of the brew day and we'll see how we go. Right, so fermenting the batch of beer, and fermentation looks like it's finished, and I'll get to what it looks like in a minute. Now, I brewed this beer on Sunday, we're now on Friday. This is day 5. I've not had a batch of beer any time recently that's taken 5 days to ferment out. Most of my batches tend to be done around day 3, and then I dry hop, cold crash, do all the other stuff, and in a week they're in a keg. This beer took over nearly 36 hours to start, which got me worried. Fermentation looked fine once it was going. It looked quite strong fermentation, nice thick corrosion head, even though it was under pressure. No signs of any infection or anything like that, so I was quite happy with that. And then the final gravity should have been 10-12. According to the tilt hydrometer, which granted is not accurate, it's good for just checking the guide of fermentation, and it is under pressure, which is going to have an impact. But currently stands at 10:03, which is far beyond what final gravity should have been. So what I've done is I've taken off a sample from the Fermzilla. I'm going to degas the sample just by passing it between 2 pint pots. Take out as much gas as I can. Colour's looking nice, even though it's still got a bit of sediment and stuff in it. Definitely needs to cold crash. I'm going to degas it, get my hydrometer out and get an accurate reading of what the final gravity finally is. I'm hoping the reason it's so low is something to do with the fact that it was under pressure. But we'll see how we go. So I've taken off a sample from the sample glass. Got it a little whiskey smelling glass. I can't smell any infection, nothing off smelling. I can still smell a bit of the hops. I haven't dry hopped this yet because I wanted to make sure there was nothing wrong with it before I dry hopped it. And assuming it's fine, I'm going to dry hop for 3 days and then I'm going to keg. I can smell a bit of Citra on the hops. Not Citra, Cascade, one of the hops I used. Nice malty note. There is obviously still a bit of needs filtering and stuff like that, but colour's looking nice. I was going for a red. It's definitely a nice reddy hue, although it's very hazy at the moment. Really hope it's not affected. No. A bit bitter, because obviously the gravity is a lot lower than it should have been. But malty. It's quite nice actually. A bit flat, obviously there's no carbonation in it. There's only a tiny bit of carbonation from the pressure fermentation. No, I think some hops in that for the dry hop. A bit more flavour and aroma. Carbonation, chill it down properly. And that's fine. So, I don't know what has caused a 95% attenuation rate with the yeast I used. It was only a pack of Mangrove Jack's West Coast M44, I think it was. But for some reason, it's attenuated to 95%-ish. I'll get the final gravity reading and then I can work out the final numbers, but it's not affected. So, that's a good one. Okay. Let's get it chilled down to 15 degrees. We'll start the dry hop. We'll do it for 3 days and then we'll keg. See you soon. So we're about 6 weeks since brew day. The beer's been in the keg 4 weeks. I've enjoyed quite a few of the beers so far. I think I've got about half a keg left. So I thought it's probably a good time I get this video done before I finish the keg. When I kegged the beer, it was still very murky and looked very, sort of, because of the dark colour of the beer, it looked very muddy. So what I decided to do was use gelatin to fine the beer, made up a sachet and threw it in, and within 3 days it was crystal clear. I've got some pictures I'll stick up to give you an idea of the effect that can have even such a short profile. I cold crashed it, but didn't want to leave it in the fermenter too long because I'd done research on the dry hopping and didn't want to expose the beer to the hops for more than 3 days. I also wanted to integrate the cold crashing into that scenario, so I started off dry hopping at 15 degrees and then reduced temperature by day to 10 to 5, finally towards 1 degree for the final day, just to try and clear it out while it was dry hopping. I think that's had an impact on everything in suspension and the lack of hop aroma in the final beer. Whether or not this is still classed as an IPA, I'm not sure, because there isn't a lot of hop aroma. There is some nice hop bitterness that balances well with the malt profile of the beer, but I think this has ended up more towards a red ale than an IPA. I've brewed some Irish red ales in the past, and this is definitely a good advocate for that sort of style. That being said, that means if I choose to brew this beer again, I can take out the 300 grams of hops I used and just use something a bit more simple to get the IBUs I need and a bit of flavour. Something like Fuggles or Eastgate Golding, which will make the recipe a bit cheaper and a whole lot simpler, although this wasn't an expensive recipe to start with. There's a lovely lacing on the glass, nice bit of carbonation. There is a slight bit of hop bitterness in the aroma, but not much from what I was hoping for an IPA. And the flavour is lovely, but very malt forward. So I think this is definitely a good case for a red ale instead of the IPA I was hoping for. It fermented from 1054 down to 1014, which has come out at a 5.4% beer. And all in all, I'm very happy with it. It's definitely an easy drinker. It's a lovely flavour. It's a little thin on the mouthfeel. I think if I brew this again, I will introduce some wheat malt into the grain bill, just to sort of bump up that mouthfeel a bit. But all in all, for a first recipe design, I'm very pleased with the results. So, all in all, I'm very happy with this. I'll look to maybe brew it again in the future. Until then, happy home brewing. Cheers.